Hey there, Blazer fans, and welcome to episode 18 of The Dragon's Den, a podcast for those that bleed green and gold. Today, my guest is Mr. Lawrence Kinnard. Diehard Blazer fans remember Lawrence from his time with the UAB men's basketball team from 2005 to 2009. He was a key contributor to the success of the teams, and he was an all-around team player and hard worker. I will have a shortened This Week in Blazer History segment at the end of the episode, so stick around for that. But for now, let's go ahead and head into the episode. Thanks for listening. All right, Blazer fans, I've got my guest here for episode 18 of The Dragon's Den, a former forward for the UAB men's basketball team from 2005 to 2009 from Memphis, Tennessee. Played at Raleigh Egypt High School in Memphis, Mr. Lawrence Kinnard. How you doing, Lawrence?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to have you on. I know that you were one of the many great players that we had back in the early 2000s and late 2000s, and it's definitely great to have you on. It's a familiar face that we hadn't seen in a while, so super excited to get going and get ready to ask you these questions.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. It was an honor, and it was just great to see you reach out. Sometimes us old guys, we feel like we're forgotten about, so. It's great to be recognized for something like this.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you. So I'll get my listeners reacquainted with you. I know some of us diehards definitely remember you really well, but you are a member of UAB's 1,000 point club. You had 1,413 career points. You had your ninth in UAB history in field goals attempted, ninth in field goals made, fourth in career rebounds, seventh in career block shots, tied for eighth in career games started, tied with Stanley Jackson for 93. You're fourth in career minutes played, fourth in single season rebounds, fifth in average rebounds per game in a season, and you were third team All Conference USA twice in 2007, 2008, and 2008, 2009. And going back into your high school days, you were a member of the Memphis Commercial Appeal All Metro team in 2004 and 2005. And you played in the Memphis All-Star Classic. Your team was great. You went 33-3 and Class AA runners up as a senior, and you were rated as the number 18 best small forward prospect and 74th overall prospect nationally by Rivals.com. So, all that leading up, what schools were you looking at coming out of high school, and what made you choose UAB?
Coming out of high school, I had a lot of schools. Including Memphis, Florida State, Arkansas State, Georgia Tech. And I think what sold me was they were close to home. My family could come visit me. My parents were older, so that was big for me because they were always my support system when I was playing ball, especially my mom. My dad worked, and when he finally retired, he came just as much as her, but she was always there no matter what. Plus, when I got there, Mike Anderson was there, and they played like we played at Raleigh Egypt. We pressed the whole game, and we turn do different types of press and stuff like that. So once I came down and I end up seeing them play or practice rather, and my best memory of that was I watched Frank Holmes. He played before me. He was a class before me. He was graduated in 2004, and we played him several years throughout Raleigh's history. And my junior and senior year, we put them out to go to state both years. So when I got down there was some familiar face. So that was a plus. And I saw that they weren't soft because Frank Holmes went up for a dunk. And one of the bigs, Brandon Tobias, fouled him. And Frank Holmes went down hard, like on his back. And I thought, at that moment, like, okay, let's see how we're catered to, in college. I wasn't catered to in high school. So, it was going to be different. And once Frank hit the floor and he rolled over, they got him off the floor. He stood there for about 3 or 4 minutes. And coach asked him a simple question. Are you injured or are you hurt? Frank said, hurt. He said, oh, okay, well, you can jump in whenever you're ready. And he literally jumped right back into practice like nothing never happened. And I was like, wow, okay, I think this is the place, along with the fast pace and the great coaching staff, this is this is the place I need to be. Along with Birmingham actually being almost like Memphis, the equal to Memphis as far as culture, people, the city like area. I was just like, yeah, this is home away from home. So
Okay. Well, that's great. So you started your career at UAB with a bang. You started 14 of your 26 games in your freshman season. You had a broken bone in your foot in December of that season, and you were supposed to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, but you were only out for 3. So, kind of like you just said, you started off with that toughness already, but you scored, one of your bigger games, or you scored 3 late baskets against Houston, one of which was the game winner, and you had 13 points in that game. And what was it like to step in and make an immediate impression in your first year?
well, Mike Anderson, he said when he recruited me, hey, we have players we have here, and that's not to say you're not going to play. We recruited you because we feel you can step in and come right in and be an impact. But we have players, and through practice, you will earn your either starting spot or the minutes you deserve. So every practice, I went out and I tried to compete and play hard. And we had, I think it was me and another, it was a transfer and another freshman that came in with me, Roderick Ollie. He was the other freshman. He was from Mississippi. And then Maurice Gibbs was the transfer. So I was battling with him for minutes and just trying to ensure that I could carve out some minutes for me for my freshman year. And when I initially got there, the work ethic that left from high school from my head coach Jimmy Adams was already instilled. It wasn't like I had to learn how to run hard because this is what I did in high school. I didn't learn how to practice hard because every night me and my best friend Taylor, we would go to University of Memphis Defense Center and play or shoot or play one on one until 1 or 2 in the morning. So the work ethic was always there. It was just about being with the right system and the right coach. So when I stepped in and they say you have the opportunity if you work as hard as we know you can, and that's one of the reasons why I was able to start those games, along with an injury that was unfortunate for us because I felt like with this player who was my big brother at the time, Demario Edens, he tore his Achilles. I feel like that excelled me to grow faster. That also happened in high school. One of our teammates, he got in trouble and he couldn't play going into his senior year, which forced me as a sophomore to start in high school, Raleigh High School. So I had been put in the fire a few times where I was forced to grow up quicker than most in the game of basketball. I was ready just because of that. And I didn't let the broken foot, which was, I think it was 28 days total, affect me because I've hurt myself at Raleigh and we didn't have no trainer. There was no such thing back then. So it was like, we was icy and, are you going to play tonight? And at that time, I didn't never want to let nobody down. So it was rehab 2-3 times a day. Brian Cook, that was there at UAB when I was there. I think he's still there. Did a great job. It wasn't him asking me, was I coming in? I was coming in because I wanted to play. I didn't want a red shirt. I wanted to make sure I was there and playing basketball. So,
All right.
and then with the Houston, it was so crazy because when I was playing in Houston, I always wanted the opportunity. As you growing up a basketball player, you want the opportunity to hit the game winning shots. I don't think it was on my mind, and it was still a blur then, like it is now. The last 3 baskets, all the way up into the game winner, which is still fresh. I always shot backboard shots. In high school, I padded my game after Kevin Garnett. So, not really Tim Duncan because I didn't specifically use backboard just always, but if I got a chance to use it, it was a Kevin Garnett fadeaway type of shot, and I think that's what happened. They end up fumbling the ball. Even though I hit 2, they for some reason was like, okay, we're gonna still worry about these guys. So I said, well, you keep worrying about them, and I'll get to my sweet spot, which in high school that was my sweet spot. So when it was past him, it just felt like a regular shot. I wasn't scared. I got it. I hit it. And to this day, I don't let one of my close friends named Brian Latham, who played on that team, live it down because my wife goes to the same gym with him that he works at, Lifetime Fitness, and we talk about it all the time. And I'll never let him live it down.
Well, I mean, you proved that you weren't scared of the spotlight immediately. I mean, you just like you said, you stepped in, you played an integral role right there from the very beginning, and you weren't scared of the spotlight in the NCAA tournament either. You had 8 points and 3 blocks in the NCAA first round game against Kentucky in
Yeah,
2006. Uh, what was that game against Kentucky like for you on that big stage?
I treated it like it was just an average game. I mean, I didn't think it was like some people say, oh, this is make or break. Like I feel like I've done this long enough to know it's a big game, not to be scared, but you have some type of you're a little nervous going into every game, not just NCAA game or regular game. Some shots during the game, I was upset with myself because I felt like I could have made a lot more and did a lot more, especially because we didn't lose by too much. And I was just, I always replay in my mind what more I could have done. But I definitely wasn't scared at the moment. I really was actually thriving at the moment because, I mean, you're playing against Kentucky. I think before that, I got a chance to watch Rudy Gay walk in. He was like one of the top college players before then. So I wanted to prove that I deserved to be on the same stage and court with these type of players. You know, when you come out of a high school and you see these guys and they're as great as they are, you just want the opportunity to prove, hey, I deserve to be on the same court. So when I walked into that game, I wasn't scared. I was just, hey, when you gonna put me in, coach? Whenever you put me in, I'm gonna do what I've been doing all year, and hopefully we can get the win with it.
Also that year, you faced your hometown Memphis Tigers 3 times in that first season. The first of which was a close loss at FedEx Forum by 7. The big upset win at home by 6 that everybody remembers, the court storming game, and then the gutsy defensive loss in the conference championship game. What was it like to go up against Memphis, being from Memphis, and knowing that they recruited you? What was all that like?
It was great actually. I love playing against Memphis just because everybody got a chance to come see me. Like my mom them drove to almost every home game I had. My mom and dad. My sister would come when she could. It was great just because my friends and family could actually see versus watching on TV. Some of my older aunts and uncles and family members could actually come to the game and watch me in person and see how I was playing. Plus, half of the people on Memphis team, more than half almost, I knew personally because when I came home in the summers, I would play with them. I would go up to Memphis and play with them. So it was always big just because and no matter what year and what era I played in, I always had people I knew. Like Jeremy Hunt played one year when we played Memphis. That was like my big brother. He went to Craigmont. Andre Allen played. He was like a really, really close friend of mine. You know, he played at Booker T. Washington, BTW, we call it. Later on, Willie Kemp, is still one of my closest friends today. We still have conversations, me, Willie, and Jeremy Hunt. Pierre Nouns, which is my cousin on my mom's side, he played there. A lot of people I still connect with, like Sean Taggart, we're still great friends to today. Robert Dozier, who I still talk to when he comes home in the summer, we play pickup together. So it's a lot of people that I played against on the regular at home, and they knew what I was capable of. And then when I went and played them there, you just got to put it all together. It's sometimes pickup is different than regular games because in pickup you can do a little bit more. But in regular game, you have to actually show what you're made of. And every time I came home, I didn't feel like I wanted Memphis to see what they were missing. I just wanted to prove that I know Memphis was great, but I could have played with you guys too.
You name dropping Robert Dozier. I felt like Dozier was never going to leave Memphis. It felt like he was there for 10 years, man. I got sick of seeing Robert Dozier on the court, man. He was good, and he was. Ooh.
Yeah, he was good. He was always good. Yep, yep. Him, and then I think my freshman year, they were loaded. They had like Sean Williams, Rodney Carney, Joey Dorsey,
Mhm.
um, Darius Washington. So when we beat them that year, that was like for us, that was like their best year. I felt like that was one of their best years, and for us to get that win, especially at our home, and I was able to actually help in the win coming off. I think it was like my second, third game back after the broken foot to actually play a few minutes. I think I might have had 4, maybe 6 points, only like 14 minutes. I begged Brian to let me play, and he was like, let me call Dr. Garth. And I was like, please. And I was sitting in the dorm just waiting the results. And he said, yeah. So I was like, oh, yeah. So, yeah, it was a great experience. Like, that's one you don't forget, like,
Mhm.
ever in basketball.
Yeah.
So,
Going into your sophomore season, UAB hired Mike Davis. You got recruited by Mike Anderson, but you stuck around and you stayed with Coach Davis. What was your first impression of Coach Davis, and what's your relationship like with him now?
my first impression of him was still, it still is. He's a great coach. He's a great guy. He's so strong and adamant about the goal he wants to achieve. You know, you got a bunch of teenagers just moving to adulthood. We all think we know everything. It's tough to coach that, and I think he did a great job. And our relationship now, we don't talk as much as I would talk to my high school coach. But if he needs some and he reaches out, I played overseas a couple years, actually 9 years. So if he reaches out and want me to reach out to a connect, I'll definitely do it for him. You know what I mean? Just because it, in his position where I was my freshman year to my sophomore and junior year, I think the growth was with totally 100%. He helped in that growth 100% because if you just look at stats, my stats went up, 3-pointers went up, minutes played went up crazy through the roof. And he pushed me when most people, and I thought even back then that it was like, is this really what I want to do, to the point where almost like, do I want to continue basketball? But if you sit and think about it at a later date, without that, I may have not have withstood what I came across overseas. So, I thank him for that.
So your sophomore season, you guys struggled in Coach Davis's first year. You went 15-16 with a ton of close losses. What do you remember from that sophomore season, and what kind of motivated you going into your 2007 2008 junior year?
Um, I think that year it was tough, but we knew it would be tough. We had a bunch of new guys come in. Robert Vay couldn't play right away; he's still sitting out. Um, so we just kind of grinded it out, knowing that we had some pieces for next year. And the close losses hurt, but it gave us the light that we needed to see going into our next year, because we knew now we lost by 3 this game. Next year, Robert Raden brings 14 to 20 points a game. That's not a loss. So what we did was we just played as hard as we could for that year. We had a lot of young guys also. Even though I was still young, I had to step into the older role, along with Paul Delaney and Frank Holmes, was I think our two last pieces that was there. So we kind of just fought it out as best we could. We're trying to learn a new system because we was all press, and then went to strategic defensive schemes. So it was a struggle just because we had to get rid of our old ways to our new ways, get used to our new coaches who were great, who did a great job. Coach Davis, Coach Marsh, Coach May, and a couple other coaches. So I think that was the curve. But once we got over the curve, we look forward to our junior year because we knew the pieces that we had.
You mentioned a couple of the guys, but you did add some new firepower in your junior year. Guys like Robert Vaden, Reggie Huffman, Channing Tony, Aaron Johnson, and Walter Sharp. And among others. But with these new guys that you had, with these new offensive weapons and everything, how did the team gel with the new guys on the team?
Well, half of them were there
Mm-hmm.
before we going into our junior year. So, most of the sophomore year, Robert Vaden was there. Shannon Sharp, not with Shannon, but Walter Sharp used to always come in and play with us in the summer. Shannon Tony got there in the summer. He started playing with us. Reggie Huffman was the same way. Aaron Johnson was a gritty. He's my little brother. He was the grittiest point guard, that I played with besides Squeaky. So it was one of those things where once we put all that together with the coaching staff, who did a great job of piecing us together like a puzzle, we knew we would have good things to do. Coach Davis did a great job of specifying roles and making sure that you knew what it was. And if you needed anything, he would try to help you in advantage of the team. I think that year, Reggie Huffman, um, he felt, and he was a great player. He just felt he did more when he started. And me personally, I didn't care. I just wanted to play. So Coach came and asked me, "Hey, would you come off the bench? Would you mind?" I told him, "Whatever the team needs, I'll do." Just because, if he needs to get going, and that's what we need to win, then that's what I'll do. So we gelled perfectly because I didn't mind doing it for Reggie. If you don't gel with people, you would have a problem with doing that for people. You know what I mean? So I think that was it.
That's admirable. I don't know too many players that would do that. But I mean, you're the ultimate team player. You were definitely one of the best. I mean, it seemed like you guys really gelled well from those days. A lot of um, really good chemistry on the court. I remember that well. I mean, I was young, but I mean, it was a lot of fun to watch. But going into your junior year, at the start of the year, you guys started the season 7-4 with the rough skid in the Glenn Wilkes Classic tournament down early on in the year down in Daytona, and you had a loss to South Florida just before heading to Louisville, Kentucky to play in a neutral site game against the Kentucky Wildcats in December. So revenge game for you, kind of like for a couple of the guys that were still around from that year. Take my listeners through what you remember from that game.
That game was it was so weird because when we pulled up to the arena, we was like, wow, we're in a neutral site, but are we really in a neutral site? Because it wasn't nowhere near where we were playing. It was more close to Kentucky. So we knew they were gonna have more fans than we did. And Coach Davis said, no matter what, we just got to go out there and play our game. Our game speaks for itself. So when we went out, it wasn't for me. I know can't speak for the Paul Delaney or Frank Holmes. It wasn't a revenge. Like we need to win because of revenge. We just wanted to be out there playing and beat you guys because you were our opponents. So when we went out there, we laid it all on the line. I think Walter Sharp had an outstanding game that game. I think that's the game that put him on the map. And I think him and if I'm not mistaken, Robert Vaden had a great game too. They led the way, and everybody else just trickled in as much as we could when we could. You know what I mean? Once the show starts, because we gel so good with each other, we didn't take the steam away from nobody else. So if I scored 2 and had 8 rebounds, I was fine with it because we won the game. You know what I mean? So we were a team that didn't just say, okay, well, I need to go get my 16 because that's what I'm averaging. So if Walter Sharp had it going, or Reggie Huffman had it going, whoever had it going, we went to them and made sure we ran through them, and everybody else played a role right outside of it. So, that game was so great for us because once we beat them, it was like, yo, we got them. We thinking like after we beat them, like, okay, we did beat Kentucky. We just beat Kentucky, y'all.
Yeah, you definitely did feed the hot hand. You mentioned you think Vaden had a good game. I was there. It was actually I went for my 13th birthday. My parents surprised me with the trip up there for the game, and Vaden had 5 points in the first half, and then he ended up going on to have 28 points in the second half and had 33 total.
Yep.
So he was on fire that game, and you guys definitely did a great job of feeding the hot hand. And some of the defensive plays y'all made in that game were outstanding. So it was definitely one of the highlight games. But from there, you guys went on to win 10 of the next 14 games, and you faced number 1 Memphis at home. We all know that game was a war, and I was planning to ask it myself, but one of my social media questions deals with it. So Jess Taylor and I both, Jess Taylor from Facebook, he and I both want to know that last shot. Did you think it counted? And what do you remember from that game?
So I remember from the game, it was like down to the wire. Our scheme was Memphis really didn't shoot free throws well. So near the end of the game, our scheme wasn't to foul on purpose. It was to, if we foul, make sure they don't get it up for an and one. So within that moment, if I'm not mistaken, it goes down to the wire, and I think we're up 1 or 2, and CDR, Chris Douglas Robert, is driving off their wheel play. That's what we called it. And he has Vaden on him, and Vaden is guarding him, but CDR is known for running floaters, and he's just a crafty scorer, one of the most craftiest scorers you ever seen. And he's driving, and he does this running floater, but he bumped Vaden, and Vaden thought that was enough contact for a foul, so he fell. And if the ref calls that, it's an offensive foul. We get the ball, we get it in, free throws, and essentially that's game. But the ref called a blocking foul. CDR got an and one. We go to the free throw line. In our minds, it's just box out. I think he missed maybe 1 or 2 late in the game earlier. So it's like just box out, we get the rebound, push on the sub, we're going to overtime. If not, we get a shot at the, going towards the other way because it's tied game. He ends up hitting the free throw. We get the ball in, we push it up the floor. We get it to Vaden, and I'm trailing. And in my mind, I thought Vaden saw me because I'm like, yo, this is the prime setup. This is what I did all year. I trailed at the 3-point line, and it's usually a toss back from Paul Delaney and Aaron Johnson at that time, and it's a 3. But once I noticed he was shooting, which everybody's 100% fine with, like I would never doubt his shot. I was always taught during my junior, senior year, all through my career, crash. So I immediately run in. No one's guarding me, so I run in. So no one sees me. I get it, but I was too far away to tip it. So I had to gather and quick tip. And to be honest, I thought it may have been good. But as I replayed it in my mind, I kind of thought they're going to say no. So I didn't really know exactly what to say. When the ref asked me, did you really, because the ref asked me, did you really think it was good? I was like, it's I don't know. Like I caught it. I thought I got it off in time. I saw red. I can't see red and the basket all at once and leave my hand. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys. And they called it. They said it was no good. So, you got to live with it because, Baton took a great shot and I did what I was supposed to do, go try to rebound.
Well, I certainly wish it was good. But that was that was a tough loss, man. But you guys went on to win 5 in a row from there, but you got drilled at Memphis in the regular season finale, and then you lost to Tulsa in the conference tournament opening game. You guys still managed to make the NIT, getting a revenge win over VCU from the year before, and then you fell to Virginia Tech in the next game. So what was your impression of the team after such an emotional season?
We didn't know. We didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't know if Aiden was going to go ahead and go to the league, NBA. Walter Sharp wasn't coming back. he was at the if we could have got him the second half of the season, I think it's a lot better. When it was so much stuff we used around him because he was a great dominant force in the post, wing, wherever he was on the floor. We didn't know what UAB looked like going into my senior year. Robert Vaden actually reached out to a lot of us to discuss the NBA, and them wanting him and him wanting to go. And he ended up coming back. He contacted us later and told us, but up until then, we didn't know. So we were just in the air. We were just in there about the senior year, or my senior year, which was his, Paul Delaney's too, because he had got hurt also. So we were just in the air about it, and we didn't really know what was going to occur. So once Vaden said he was coming back, we kind of just said, okay, this is what we got, and now we got to turn everything around because the positioning was different now. Then I played the 4, a little bit of 5. That senior year, I started at the 5 almost, and played more 5, a little bit of 4. Channing Tony had to play the 4 a lot. Robert Vaden even stepped down to 4 some. So it was a lot. It was a lot going on, going from junior to senior year because we lost some of the bigs that we had because Reggie Huffman didn't come back. So it was a challenge, but I think we made it. We had Howard Crawford who stepped up big for us. Cameron Moore came in. So they were young, not inexperienced, but it's just young. So teaching had to be taught, but I think overall, going into our senior year, we just buckled down and said, "This is what we got. We got to fight with what we got."
Okay. So your senior season didn't start off any less emotional. You guys just got out with a close win over Santa Clara to start the year, and you won in a crazy game at Arizona.
Super crazy.
What was that environment like, and what was going through your mind on that foul call on Paul Delaney in the final seconds that won UAB the game?
We almost. Man, it was a hard fought battle. Arizona had three studs. They had Chase Budinger, Jordan Hill, and then the point guard. I can't remember his name. He was a stud too. I remember him from Nike All American camp. Me and him was there together. So it was a hard fought battle, and if you look at it, everybody had us to lose that game. We just barely escaped Paul. I think his name Patrick Bryant, or maybe Paul Bryant from Santa Clara, the big guy, 6'10", draft pick. We just escaped him. We don't have a big for him. I was the biggest guy with Howard Crawford and Cameron Moore. Cameron Moore was a young freshman. Howard Crawford was a sophomore. I mean, we didn't have, and it was me. So we battled through that one. We made it through that one, and now we face Jordan Hill, 6'10", again, a big that I have to guard. But how I saw it was, you got to guard me too. So we Coach Marsh put in a great defensive scheme that we had for him. Chase Budinger, just contain him as best we can, and then the point guard, don't let him facilitate as much as he wants to, because then it will break all our defensive down. So we get to the last play of the game, and Paul Delaney, after shooting the free throws, fouls. And we didn't understand, but once he spoke to us, we knew. He didn't know we were up. He thought we were still down. So, in seeing that, we just glad that we didn't get an intentional, because if we get that, that's game. So, we talked to Paul out there, and it was just the refs. Luckily, they don't do what they do now, where they review all of that and can rechange calls like that. Because if they do, I think we don't go on to Madison Square. So
Yeah, so you guys pull out the crazy win there. Paul gets that. I can still see it in my mind. The Arizona misses that last second shot, or misses that last 5 or 6 second shot, and he turns and shoots it full court, and for some reason that guard for Arizona fouled him. But we get the win. Y'all moved on, and like you said, you went on to Madison Square Garden. Because it was part of the preseason NIT, and your next opponents didn't get any easier. You faced Blake Griffin and the Oklahoma Sooners. Then you went on to face Boston College. Both were losses, but what was it like playing in that environment with playing against Oklahoma and Boston College, and get to say you played in Madison Square Garden, and what was all that like for you?
So for me, when I walked in the gym, I looked around and I thought to myself, this is where dreams and people are made or broke. So when we went out there, I didn't see Oklahoma. I didn't see Boston College. I just seen a team in front of me. I knew who Blake Griffin was. We talked about him. And actually in the first half, if you look, we did a great job on him. He only got a little loose in the second half because he was in foul trouble in the first half. And Boston College, it was a hard-fought battle, but they were just so I think his name is Tyron Grice. He's an amazing point guard. He's still overseas now in EuroLeague. And both teams, it was so close near the end. We just couldn't get that one stop that we needed. But the environment was, like I said, when you walk through Madison Square Garden, you see a picture of Jordan on the wall. Michael Jackson, Jay-Z has performed there. Just to be in the same aura with the greats like that, and just seeing like Carmelo's picture on the wall and all these people, you feel like if you can do something in here and do something um, in this building, in this facility, you've done something. And that, I think that year, as a matter of fact, I don't think I do know, because I have the trophy in my trophy room. I think I got all tournament team. Yep, preseason all tournament team. I'm looking at it now. And, for me, I just went out and did. Coach Marsh came to me before my season and said, "Hey, for you this year, your goal should be double doubles. And if you do a double, it doesn't matter. If you do a double double, you've given us what we need from you. Anything else outside of that is a plus." So my goal was to go out. It didn't matter if we played Blake Griffin, and it didn't matter who it was. I was going to go try to get 10 rebounds and 10 plus points. So it gave us a chance to be on the spectrum, because at that moment, my senior year, I was the lead big. So I just went out and played hard. Like I said, Madison Square, we could have played anywhere. At the Laker facility, I was going to go do that regardless.
So you guys, you finished your senior season with a 22-12 record with some hard fought losses, wins and losses. You guys made it to the NIT, but you lost in the first round to Notre Dame. How did you feel about your career overall at UAB, and how did you hope you would be remembered?
Boy, I feel like my freshman year, I could have did a lot more. I think my freshman year, I was still trying to sort out what I wanted to be, instead of just playing a game of basketball and letting my ability flow. Going into my junior and senior year, I think I did that. My sophomore year, I was trying to be a three-point shooter. As you can see, I shot a lot of 3 points my sophomore year. I just wanted to be a three-point shooter, because I feel like you get more opportunities when you're like that and this and that. But if I would have known going to my freshman year that I could be more aggressive, do a lot more to help the team than just be, for me, I'm going to say average. Some people would say I was above average, but average, then I would. Remembered at UAB, I like to think I'm remembered as one of the pretty decent bigs to come through as far as minutes played. That's why I went out and tried to rebound, because we didn't have nobody else to do it. I tried to block shots. If you came to the basket, even undersized at 6'8", I mean, we're playing 6'10" guys. Like I said, Jordan Hill, Patrick Bryant, Blake Griffin. It didn't matter. I was out there battling just to prove I deserved to be on the floor. So, in UAB, my goal was to be seen as when you look in the record books, they say, do you want to be in top 10 in scoring? Yeah. Do you want to be top 5 in rebounds? Of course I do. Do you want to be top 2, top 5 in double-doubles, minutes, plays, and all this stuff? Yeah. I didn't seek to go after records. They happened because I decided I wanted to play as hard as I wanted to play.
I like that answer a lot. So you went on from UAB and you went on to play basketball overseas in Poland, Finland, and Romania from 2009 to 2018. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And so what was it like playing overseas? How was the style of play different? What was all of it like for you?
It was different. It was something that I truly can say Mike Davis prepared me for, through all the, we need to do this, you need to do this, and the talks and all of the, some things that I might have considered was harsh or I didn't like, but overseas was the same. Like my first year, I was the only American till we got my big brother Cliff Hawkins over. My second year, I played with my big brother, Junior Lorenzen Harrington. He played on he played on a EuroLeague team the year before, and I played with him 2 years after, 2 years back to back. And even those years, I felt like the coaches just didn't give me a break. It was tough, but I made 9 years out of it. I think I made a decent living out of it. So
We mentioned a few of them, but you played along with some great players from your era. You played along with Marvette McDonald, Squeaky Johnson, Demario Edens, and Brandon Tobias were on their way out when you were coming in. But like I said, you played with Reggie Huffman, Robert Vaden, Walter Sharp, Channing Tony, Aaron Johnson, and those guys came in when you were already there. And then Paul Delaney and Frank Holmes, Win Makubu and Howard Crawford, all those guys, among others in that time frame, it was a crazy group of great players in UAB history, quite a list. What was it like playing along with all these guys? What were some of the stories that you remember from these guys?
Man, it's so many different ones. Playing with DeMario, Squeaky Johnson, Marvette. Marvette's from Memphis, so we used to laugh and joke about stuff that's going on in Memphis. And when his family would come, my family would be here, so it was like a Memphis reunion. The Paul Delaney, Atlanta vibe. He always used to call people Shaw, and it stands for Shawty. So, of course, I knew Frank before I got there, and me and him still are close friends. We work together now. Robert Vaden brought the Indiana down. Man, one of the coolest guys you'll know. Win Makubu, still my brother to the day. He was my OG when I got there. He showed me around, used to take me around before I got my car on campus. Aaron Johnson, one of the grittiest point guards besides Squeaky Johnson, I just met Squeaky last year. He coaches for the Hustle now. I went to see him. He still was an OG. Everything was New Orleans style. If you don't know, New Orleans is all Ryan and Baby and all that. So he brought that, and he was always joyful in the locker room. Man, it was fun. It was fun. It's so many different stories. It's hard to pick one because you got one in every era that would make you laugh, almost cry and laugh. And if you think about it, yeah. So it was great, in no matter what era I played in.
So how is life now, and what are you up to?
Life is good now. I'm married. I have 2 kids, 2 beautiful kids. Right now, I work at U Villages. It's a behavioral facility for youth. It's going good. I like this job just because I get to reach out to a couple kids that feel like they made mistakes and there's no way to make up for them. I can't be anything later in life because I did these things when that's just not the truth. So growing up where I came from, I grew up in Timberlake, and then we moved to Raleigh. Timberlake is the hood. Raleigh turned into the hood, but it was nicer before. So it gives me the perspective to see what they're talking about, and also tell them no matter where you're coming from, you can strive for success. So that's what I'm doing now. That's pretty much about it. I got a part-time job, and I got me and Willie Kemp actually on our own pressure washing company. But yeah, that's about it.
Well, that's great, man. It's great to see that you're helping a younger generation. So I got a couple of more social media questions for you, and then I got a lot harder question for you, and then we'll get on out of here. So my first question on social media comes from Russell Brasil on Twitter at RussBus11. He asks, favorite game and opponent to play.
Favorite game would be Memphis, and favorite opponent would be Memphis. I think out of all the big games I ever played, I think it's Memphis, but just because it's home and I get a chance to show. Back when we played them, they was always top in the country. If you played it good against the top team in the country, you had to be somewhat good. So I was always able to do those. Those would be my favorite, just because, like I said, they were always top in the country, and if I got a chance to play them, and play good, that means I had to be pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm. So my second question I got from social media is from Paul Ensign on Twitter at P Ensign. He asks, what were some of the toughest road environments you played in while you were at UAB?
Southern Miss, Tulane, and Rice. They were tough because Southern Miss never really had people there. Tulane either, and Rice definitely didn't. So you had to get up for a game, almost like in the pandemic now, where you have to cheer your teammates on for a score, but you feel like you shouldn't need to because the team, not to say they were, bad, because some of the Southern Miss teams were good. They beat us. But it was just like, we're playing Southern Miss. Their fans don't care. Our fans didn't come. Too many come. They don't care. We're just playing. So you got to get up for a game and win this game without it being, with no pretty much morale, really. So I think those were the tougher ones for me, at least.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because that was when I asked that question, I think to Mo Finley, my first guest on the podcast. He mentioned that his toughest environments were Southern Miss and Tulane as well, and it's same exact reason. That's crazy, but
Yep.
and
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. I don't know how these young kids are doing it or the NBA play. Like it's hard to get up when you go dunk a ball and all you hear is a few cries, or they hit a shot and the crowd is uproaring, and then you come down and hit the same shot and it silenced the crowd. Like that's what basketball is about, But when you hit a shot, nobody cares, and they hit a shot, nobody cares. It's like, so it drags out for longer, and then their coaches always found ways to motivate them, especially when we came in town. So I don't know. So.
And my last question I got for you, Lawrence, it's a lighthearted question. I ask all my guests, which barbecue is better, Memphis or Birmingham?
Now, see, that's tricky because Full Moon was our barbecue. That's like the Dundada barbecue down there, for me at least. So I'm going to have to go with the hometown favorite, even though I don't eat barbecue right now. I'm cut back. I'm trying to lose some weight. So I'm gonna go with Memphis though. We got so many varieties here. I gotta say Memphis.
That's all right. I'll take it, man. I love me some Memphis barbecue too, so it's okay. But I'll from the sake of keeping my listeners and my followers, I'll say that Birmingham barbecue is just as good. Maybe if not a little better, but
hey, it's not far. If anything, it's definitely not far behind. Like I would say, it's probably like right there. It's probably right there. It's not far behind at all.
Well, Lawrence, man, I appreciate it. We're gonna wrap things up here, and I really appreciate your time. I know my listeners are gonna enjoy it, man. I loved having you on. You were one of my favorites growing up as a kid, so it was a real pleasure having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. I want to thank Lawrence for his time and sharing some of his great memories with us. It was pretty cool to hear about the different coaching styles of Mike Anderson and Mike Davis and how he adapted to both in that time. But I loved watching Lawrence back in those days, and he played in some very talented Blazer squad. So thanks again, Lawrence, for all you did as a Blazer. I know we all loved watching you, and we're glad to see you're doing well now. So thank you again. And now I will give you guys an abbreviated This Week in Blazer History, focusing on some notable events that happened in the month of April in UAB history, and also give a few birthday shout-outs from this month, up until this point in the month and going up until the 24th, since I won't have an episode releasing next week. But this is what I've got for you. So the first event that I've got is from April 18th, 1985, UAB's new baseball field was officially dedicated as Jerry D. Young Memorial Field. April 24th, 1995, like I said, I'm doing This Week in Blazer History for the full month of April, basically, since my next episode will probably not release until the very end of April. But on April 24th, 1995, the UAB Blazers became one of the charter members of Conference USA. The original members included Cincinnati, DePaul, Louisville, Marquette, St. Louis, South Florida, Charlotte, Southern Miss, UAB, of course, and the Memphis Tigers and the Tulane Green Wave. In April of 1996, Murray Bartow became the second head coach in men's basketball program history, taking over for his father, Gene Bartow. April 4th, 2002, Mike Anderson, a Birmingham native and assistant coach at the University of Arkansas, was named the third head coach for the UAB men's basketball team. April 7, 2006, Mike Davis became the fourth head coach for the men's basketball team. April 29th, 2008, it wasn't exactly a personnel moment, but it was something that we all saw on campus. The smoke-breathing statue of Blaze the Dragon was unveiled on the concourse in front of Bartow Arena, and I, like many other Blazer fans, would hopefully like to see that a dragon of some sort put back out front. I really enjoyed both of them, but I miss having them out there. But of course, hopefully we'll see them again one day. But April 6th, 2016, Robert Eson was announced as the sixth head coach of the men's basketball team, just 9 days after being named interim. He was a former assistant coach under Jared Haas. And a look at some other notable events that happened in the month of April. April 18th, 1998, cornerback Danon Sidney becomes the first ever UAB football player to be selected in the NFL draft. He was selected in the third round, the 72nd overall pick, and he went to the Tennessee Oilers. April 20th, 2002, UAB has two players get drafted in the NFL draft, both defensive linemen. Brian Thomas was selected in the first round with the 22nd overall pick by the New York Jets, and Eddie Freeman was selected in the second round by the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'll look at a couple of birthdays here. Like I said, I've got it for the entire month of April, and forgive me if I didn't give you a birthday shout out here. These are some of the ones that I found, just through social media, through some media guides that I've found. But I'm going to be giving a couple of birthday shout outs to some former Blazers that from the beginning of April up until now, and probably this next week, since I'm not going to have an episode releasing in the upcoming week, but 2 weeks from now. Ty Long, former UAB Blazer football kicker, he had a birthday back on April 6th. Greg Fekinen, he had a birthday back on April 11th. Former UAB football running back Darren Reeves celebrates his birthday this week on April 17th. Former UAB football defensive lineman Chris Hubbard has a birthday coming up on April 23rd. Former UAB wideout J.J. Nelson has a birthday on April 24th. Daheem Watkins also on April 24th. Again, if I missed anybody's birthdays, I definitely didn't intend to do that. I'd love to give as many shout outs as I can, but I'm working with what I've got here with social media and some media guides that I've still got access to. So a big shout out to all those guys. Happy birthday. Hope you're all doing well, and go Blazers. And that's going to do it for This Week in Blazer History and episode 18 of the Dragon's Den. Check out my pages on social media at Dragon's Den EFEL on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks again for listening. Good night, and go Blazers.